Hello, this is Blaine O'Hara, and welcome to this NFL exclusive podcast in conjunction with Dublin's Talking Sport on Sunshine 106.8. We are broadcasting from 9 to 11 a.m. every Saturday morning with Ken Doherty and Reggie Corrigan. But due to COVID-19 and safety and health regulations, the show has been postponed for a number of weeks. But please do keep an eye on our social media pages because we'll let you know as soon as possible when we'll be back live on air. But I am delighted that we can bring you this exclusive content with Stephen O'Brien, who is with the UK Packers, and he also has the UK and Irish Packers podcast, which I would highly recommend you to go over and listen to. I'm delighted to be joined by him on the other line in a very different scenario with our little setups behind us. So how are you, Steve?
I'm good. I'm in the winner's circle here. You can see Packer stuff around me. You've got Tom Brady. You haven't got that new Cam Newton jersey yet, Blaine? No?
No, I won't even touch the Cam Newton jersey. We'll forget about that era. This new Cam Newton era.
Yeah, not going there.
His comeback player of the year.
Yeah, it didn't really happen for him, did it? But Brady, I mean, he's still in the playoffs, I guess. So are you rooting for the person or are you rooting for your Patriots?
I'm not rooting for the person whatsoever. No, unfortunately not. Even though I have his lovely jersey up here, the way he left the Pats, I have a little bit of a sting in my wound. So I kind of want to see the Bucks out as soon as possible because I can't see Brady getting another ring with a different team. Thank you very much.
Very harsh, but that's what happens. I mean, Brady did this for so many years for you, and this is how you repay him. I mean, you wouldn't pay him because you had to keep taking pay cuts, and then all of a sudden now you're sour grapes. But anyway, I reckon we leave that there because we could spend 15 minutes alone just talking about how, your fandom has probably gone down the Swanee now. I mean, that thing behind you there, that kind of jacket, that old school thing, that's what your Brady jersey is going to look like before they start winning again. I'm just informing you.
Oh, I'll be dusting off the dust there. Ooh.
You will, yeah. You'll be like, and he'll be in the Hall of Fame, or he'll probably still be playing. Let's face it. So the guy just doesn't stop. I guess, do we start there? Do we go back and look at the games last week? I mean, do you want to talk about the games coming up with the Old Fogey Bowl? I mean, what are we talking about here, Blaine?
I'd love to start off with your ACCA from last week, and it was the first time you ever. Well, not the first time you ever did a six-way, but it's the first time this season you did a six-way ACCA. And you know what? With how unpredictable and strange it was, I'm going to give it to you. You did very well. You got 50%, 3 out of 6.
Yeah, it's the only time in my life I got 50% and someone's been proud of me, right? But what I will say, let's run through the games, because at least now with you and I doing this sort of special NFL segment for Sunshine, Dublin's Talking Sport 106.8, right? We need to get it on there, Ken and Reg and all the boys. So the thing is, let's talk about what I got wrong, let's say, right? The Browns. They went into that game against the Steelers. Their head coach wasn't there. Alex Van Pelt, who I know from Green Bay, he was there, but he'd never called a game before. And they had practiced once, and they'd never been in that position before. The naive quarterback. So I picked the Steelers, and when I talk about they capitulated, they absolutely laid an egg. They were out their left guard, and you'd expect the defense of the Steelers, who were open the top 5. Some people call them number 1, depending on DVOA and everything else playing. And then they absolutely lay an egg against the Browns, which could be Big Ben and Marquise Pouncey's last game, because they said that they'd go out together. The two sort of old school players, if people don't know about them. But I know, you see, I listened to you on the radio at the start with the paper segment, and you're banging through, and you're always so positive, right? But I've got something negative to throw your way. Talk to us about Juju Smith-Schuster and then Chase Claypool and them talking smack. This is a new breed of NFL player. Is it working out for them, Blaine, or no?
Oh, I don't know. I think... let's put it into a bit of context first for our listeners who don't know anything about Juju Smith-Schuster. So obviously the wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He talks an awful lot, doesn't he, Steve? A lot of talking he does.
A lot of talking and a lot of dancing. These TikTok videos on the logos of the team he's going to play, which, naturally enough raises up, anger levels in the opposite team, and then he gets lit up. He got lit up by the Bengals, didn't he? I mean, he nearly got heavily concussed in that game.
That's right.
But he was at it again, wasn't he, Blaine? He came out and he said, in fairness, right, they asked him, are these the same Browns team that you face all the time, or is this a new hybrid that, they're successful now, they've got to the playoffs for the first time in 18 years? And he said, no, the Browns are just the Browns, right? That's the way the headlines were. But when really, if you listen to that interview, it was like, no, they're the same Browns. They're good. They've got good players or whatever, but we still expect to handle our business. That's actually what he said. But the headlines that got through to the Browns locker room was something completely different. It was like, they're just the Browns. They'll be fine. We'll smack those. Didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Oh, and you obviously saw the scenes you did after they had beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh my goodness, they were all, what is it? They had the song of Corvette, the dance that Juju does on top of teams' logos. But also they're all saying, the Browns are the Browns, the Browns are the Browns. Obviously taking the absolute mickey out of Juju. But I mean, that's what it is, though. That's a good bit of sporting drama, though. And also, you have to put that into context as well. The Browns and the Steelers hate each other. They're both in the same division. They despise each other. They do. So, no, I mean, you wouldn't see much difference in footballers doing it. Football players, not NFL players, but footballers, they'll do it.
Yeah, and the thing is the Browns hadn't won in Pittsburgh since 2002, and then they go in and they get the win, and of course they're going to celebrate and they're going to rub their face in it. But Chase Claypool, who's the young wide receiver, he's a rookie. He was doing, I think it was an Instagram Live, and he was talking about the Steelers, he was talking about the Browns, and he was saying, oh, sure, look, they're going to get waxed. What did he say? They're going to get clapped when they come up in their next game. Now, I think they are going to get clapped, but you don't want to give the Browns, with their good running game, and Baker Mayfield, any type of fuel, and they didn't get it from the Chiefs, but they're after getting it from the opponent that they beat, so now that's the talking point. You can't give these athletes who are in a violent sport any type of leeway in the sense of anything to rev them up, because they'll go crazy, and that's what they're going to do in this next game. I mean, it's all to play for. They've got nothing to lose. The Chiefs are the favourites. But let's get on to the Rams Seahawks, because I think this is another game that I got wrong. Right? So again, Rams had the backup in Wolford. And I said that if Jared Goff was playing, well then, I would have expected the Rams to beat them, because I said on the radio last week, the Rams have this habit of beating the Seahawks for whatever reason. They did it again. And why? Because Wolford got injured, and then Jared Goff had to come in, and he got a surgically repaired thumb, by the way. And he comes in and still beats the Seahawks. But that was all in the defense. We see Aaron Donald, who is their defensive star. But he ends up tearing cartilage in his rib as well, Blaine, didn't he? So here's a guy who is going to be banged up against the Packers. Oh, I'm so sad. And then Cooper Kupp as well, who had an injured knee. Again, devastated. Get out the Kleenex, because it's just, he's a fantastic wide receiver, Cooper Kupp. Not the fastest guy in the world, but a very similar playing style that we've seen in Green Bay with the likes of Jordy Nelson for many years. So he is potentially out or injured or not full. They're going to say he's full and good to go, but he's probably not. The other one that I lost was the Ravens and the Titans. This is the last game, thankfully. And that's the Titans. Had they got Derrick Henry going, which is their running back, who embarrassed people on live TV in front of their family by giving them a strong arm and making them look like kids. He doesn't get going. He's got an abysmal, run yardage in that game. And then the Ravens come back down. Lamar Jackson, incredible at running himself, took the ball himself. I think he ran 70 yards for one gain. So, I mean, how do you defend against that? You don't, and on they march. But that was the one that was against the bookies. And when they were 10-zip up, I was like, oh, here we go. Looking like a genius on live radio. Don't mind if I do. And then all of a sudden it goes against us. But sure, that's the nature of gambling, I guess.
Steve, I'm going to give you a little bit of positive news. You did say it on live TV, on live radio last week. You said if Jared Goff was to play, they would beat the Seahawks. And you did say it. So I'm going to give you a 0.5 points for that, because I said, you know what, fair play to you. So 3.5 for you. Give you a bit more positive news. I can't do the percentage in that now. I can't. I'm sorry. It's impossible for me to do the percentage. I don't have. I'm terrible at maths here. But yeah, there we go.
Well, I appreciate it.
You get the 0.5. So you got 3.5 out of 6 last week.
Update your graphic on the website now, pal. Will you? I mean, I wasn't expecting to see my failures lit up in smoke like that. Oh well.
There we go. Well, some of the big news that came out this week is superstar Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. He's not looking very happy in the Texans, is he now, Steve?
No, he's not. And this is just wild stuff. We saw their organisation sort of go down the Swanee. We saw Bill O'Brien do what he was doing. There's a guy Easterby there. There's if you listen to any podcast around the Texans, they're really sort of talking trash about him. Why the discontent is there is he's a superstar quarterback. He's had a career year in completion percentage. I don't like using this term because it's thrown around too easily now, but he's a generational talent. And this is a guy who if you don't have a good quarterback, your team sucks. And the Texans have sucked since they were invented in 2002. So since they came in, it took them this long, 17 odd years, to find a Deshaun Watson. They have him now, and now he's not happy. The reason is because they got rid of their GM and their head coach, who turned out to be the same person. And they got rid of him, and they told Deshaun Watson that you're going to have a say in who we hire for our next GM, our next head coach. And then they went ahead and hired a guy without even consulting him, which apparently has really ticked him off. So he's turned around and said, you've promised me one thing and you've pulled the rug from underneath me. We saw JJ Watt come out, didn't we, Blaine, talking about that he's not here for a rebuild. He's too old for that now. And obviously Deshaun Watson doesn't want to go through that either. Now, unfortunately for the Texans, they traded away an awful lot of their draft capital, Bill O'Brien did, and now he's not there anymore. So his vision is now gone, which was failing anyway. And he had a bust up with JJ Watt, and it didn't go very well. So now you have a guy who comes in at GM, and his number one asset, the only reason why that franchise will be a success, because it was a failure kind of up until that point. I know they had Schaub and what was his name? I wrote an article about him. He was a guy, real cerebral dude, running back anyway. Arians, I keep saying. But they had him and some good pieces. I should know because I was a writer for a Texans website for about 2 years. So there you go, egg on my face. Right? Ben Tate was the other running back. Arian Foster. There we go. There you go.
There we
See,
go.
the thing is, I can edit that in to make it look like I've said that immediately, which is brilliant. So yeah, they had sort of limited success until he came around. So now apparently he wants to go to Miami. Now, if he did, they would, which is shocking in itself because they have Tua Tagovailoa, who is this guy who's they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick for, and they made a mistake with that. So it's very interesting to see what they're going to do with him. This guy is a bona fide superstar, though. They need to keep him around and they need to keep him on side, but he's ticked off because he didn't have a say in who they were going to hire. Now, Blaine, he's not asking for them to go to him and say, do you want to sit in on the interview? But they're looking for his input. And it turns out that the guy that they hired, who has the credentials, is also another one of these New England Patriot, dare I say, one of those cliques, one of those guys. So the way he's thinking is that he's not going to have a whole lot to say because they're just going to click up again, which is the same as Bill O'Brien came from that same Belichick coaching tree as well. And Bill Belichick, the head coach of the Patriots for forever. So that's what he's sort of thinking. So what are they going to do? They're going to probably try keep him sweet, because if they don't, they're in for a lot of trouble. They could trade him to Miami for their quarterback and sort of flip them and get a bunch of first round picks, but it's a very risky move.